I call myself a sex coach, so that's quite an easy mainstream way of describing what I do, but it's lacking. And most people who work for me know that my work is a lot bigger than sex coaching.
Hi, I'm Beki Eakins, business mindset and lifestyle coach for occupational therapists. I focus on creating a freedom-based online business, helping OTs to package up their skills in unique and exciting offers that feel so good that they sell with ease in the online space. Since leaving the profession of OT, I have now worked with hundreds of clients online, helping them to create a life they feel inspired by. In this podcast, I will talk about the lifestyle goals, mindset, and strategy you need to create your own life of freedom. Hello and welcome, Jem Ayres. Welcome to the OT Self to Freedom podcast.
Thank you for having me, Beki. Thank you for having me. It's so good to be here.
Yeah, it's so good to have you here. And I'm going to explain a little bit about who you are and why I've invited you here first, and then I'll let you talk. But Jem Ayres is not an occupational therapist, I just want to point out, but I love to sprinkle in really inspiring people on this podcast, people who have got a life-changing message or something exciting to share with the world. So Jem is actually a certified sexological bodyworker and sex coach. So try saying that if you've had a few drinks, because that's a big mouthful. But basically, I searched for Jem at some point after my marriage had ended. And I just became aware that I wasn't very connected to my own body. And I was looking at how to create some very big changes in my life and really focus. I guess you might call it a midlife crisis, but I really wanted to focus on having more pleasure and joy in my life. And I just happened to stumble across Jem's work. She's quite well known in the UK. And started attending her book clubs. And it has been quite life-changing in many ways because it's really helped me with this reconnection of just understanding my own body. And actually, sometimes what happens in a book club is we do some breathing, we slow down, and we actually just listen to what our body's saying. And that has really stayed with me. It's like these little small incremental steps that we do each week in the book club, which have multiplied into making a big difference in my life. And there's many reasons why I wanted to introduce Jem to you. I know when you hear her story, you'll just be like, wowed. So just going to hand over to you, Jem. Do you just want to introduce yourself and let us know who you are and what you're about?
Yeah, thanks, Beki. Oh, so lovely to hear what a benefit some of my work has been for you. So I call myself a sex coach, but that's quite an easy mainstream way of describing what I do, but it's lacking. And most people who work for me know that my work is a lot bigger than sex coaching. It's kind of like how we have pleasure in all aspects of our life and how our connection affects everything that we do and all of the relationships and all of the work that we give. And what I know about the majority of my clients who come to me, so I work with men and women and couples, and what I find is often people are tired of not listening to their body and their brain running the show. And the mind and the brain is incredibly important for the admin of life, right? But what that often does is that can override the body's experience and what our body needs. And so a lot of people, when they've come out of working with me, they recognize that actually maybe they've had overgiving tendencies or people pleasing tendencies, or they're the caregiver in their family. And that's the role that they've taken. And it's very difficult to let go of that. And what little I know of occupational therapists is that they are the caregivers. They are making sure that they're looking after people and looking after everyone else. And a lot of my work is actually we need to look after ourselves first and prioritize our own experience before we can look after others. It's that whole thing of, put your own air mask on before you help others. So And I have absolute direct experience of this. And so this, my first business in 10 or more years ago now, I was actually a burlesque dancer, and it doesn't seem very relevant, but there was something in the work of empowerment and dance and getting in the body, and I loved doing it. And it was mostly women that I worked with, like 99% women, and it was really beautiful, beautiful business. And I was loving it, and the women were loving it. The women were growing and blossoming through connecting with their body through dance. It was very much about dance for themselves, how to kind of get into their bodies, into their sensuality, just for them. It wasn't about really performance or audience or other people. And my business boomed overnight, and I was quite surprised at that. A lot of people were quite surprised. But what happened was I had created, because especially this was my first work as a self-employed person, I had created the rat race then for myself. So my work was snowballing and rolling down the hill, and I was chasing after it. And I was absolutely heading for burnout. And I'd never even heard the term burnout at this point. I think I was 30 to 32. I didn't even know it was a thing. I'd always come from quite a grafting, working class family. And I didn't understand how you could live a lifestyle where you weren't working 9 to 5 every hour that was given to you. So to be able to relax into my own business at that point wasn't an opportunity for me. So I was working, 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 and employing other people to work for me. So suddenly I had a whole dance company empire, people used to call it. And it was beautiful, but it was draining me. And slowly, 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 my health started to deteriorate. And I didn't even notice, because I wasn't listening to my body. I wasn't listening to all the micro red flags that were going on. I just kept drinking more coffee and grabbing snacks as I was on the road often. And my body was slowly starting to scream at me. Until 2015, I was getting excruciating migraines. I'd never had migraines before. And I'd never really been a sickly person, actually. But I was getting excruciating migraines. It was affecting my head. It was affecting my walking and my movement and my memory. I was wearing sunglasses all the time. And in the UK, the doctors were just saying that it was a sinus infection, or I needed to get new glasses because it was probably eye strain. But I kind of always knew that something else was going on, but no one would listen to me. And it wasn't till I went traveling in Thailand and I ended up at a yoga and chanting retreat that I eventually had a collapse and was taken to hospital. And it was discovered that I had a tumour in my brain. And I very much believe that this was just the build-up of pressure on very young shoulders without having a good, stable scaffolding of self-care in place, had just caused my body to have, a protest.
Wow.
So I was
Wow.
diagnosed with advanced melanoma, which is a skin cancer, which had spread to my brain, and eventually they found tumours also in my lung, my lymph node. And I was told that it was terminal and that all they could offer me was palliative care. And as we're recording this now, it's about 7 years ago. No, it was 8 years ago. I was diagnosed. It was 7.5 years ago. I got the all clear, and it only took 6 months to get the all clear. And
Oh, that's
I did do.
incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I did do the doctor's immunotherapy that they offered me, which was meant to stabilize me at best. But I also changed my diet, and I did a lot of different things but around changing my mindset. But what I started to do was prioritize me and my body and my health and really listen to myself. So whilst all the outside messages were telling me I'd be suffering or I'd be in pain, or cancer means death, disease, discomfort, I didn't want to be a survivor or a fighter. It's like, oh no, I don't want to do this. I'm just going to listen to that tiny voice in the back of my head that goes, you're going to be all right. It didn't shout, you're going to be great. It just went, you're going to be fine. Don't worry about it. You're going to be fine. So whilst everyone else was panicking, I could just kind of sit back and go, I think I'm going to be fine. And I'm just going to follow that voice. Because for me, it was the most inspiring thing in that moment. And so I made lifestyle choices. And I eventually, once I became cancer free, and the doctor said, whatever you're doing, just keep doing it. Because they knew I wasn't your average patient. I kept turning up. asking questions, trying to let them know other things I was doing whilst they were saying, you don't need to change anything. It won't make an effect. What happened was I eventually, 6 months later, probably about a year after getting diagnosed originally, I sold my business and I moved location to somewhere that better suited my lifestyle, better suited my diet changes and my mind. So I now live on the seafront in Brighton, which is a very beautiful town full of creatives and healers. And I go to the yoga studio in the street next door. And there's like my juicing bar around the corner. There's the gym around the corner. And it's all directly within a few minutes walk from me. Instead of constantly pushing myself to be here, there, and everywhere.
I love that. That's the freedom lifestyle that you've chosen coming out there.
That is a freedom lifestyle. And when I sold the burlesque business, people thought I was mad, actually, or I was having a midlife crisis or a breakdown, because the business was brilliant and successful and I was making money and I was, I was covered in glitter and all of these women were benefiting from it. It was growing and growing and growing. But during cancer, it kind of just became like a cardigan that was too small or a coat that didn't quite fit me anymore. I'd outgrown it. And so the only fair thing to do for my clients as well as myself was to sell the business, hand it over to some better hands so that I could do something else. And for a couple of years, I was in limbo. Luckily, I had some savings and I did some bits and bobs, but I was in limbo for a while before I found the sexological bodywork training that I knew was absolutely right for me.
So that was a big risk for you to take at the time then.
Yeah, but I think, do you know what? Once you've overcome terminal cancer, you don't have that much fear in your life anymore. It's not, nothing really seems that risky. There's a certain amount of, do you know what? Whatever happens, I'll find a way through. Even if it's a sticky situation, I will find a way through. It might not
Yeah,
be ideal. And again, this is
yeah,
back to trust in your body. That actually, if I ask my body, instead of the mind that tells me to freak out and to fear things and to quickly just get any job while you can, if I listen to my body, it's like, it's okay. Take time, co-regulate, settle your nervous system, recover from cancer. And I don't just mean physically recover, but mentally recover. It takes a long time to get
yeah.
over a life-changing situation like that.
Oh, absolutely. And just while we're talking about it, because I know this affects a lot of OTs, and it's also part of my story because obviously my ex-husband had the massive heart attack. That was the start of then when I had some kind of breakdown after, because I was struggling to cope with everything. So burnout, breakdown, I'm not quite sure what it was. But it's just a very interesting thing because a lot of OTs are also at risk of burnout. I'd love to know, what were the exact clues that you think your body was giving you that perhaps next time you would be more in tune to? So I know you mentioned drinking a lot of coffee, but was there more to that you can now
Thank
look
you.
back and see?
Great question. I do think if I hadn't have got cancer was a real gift for me. It was a real slap around the face. It's like, you need to make changes and you need to do it now. And we've been giving you the signals for years and you still haven't made any changes. So I think if I hadn't have had cancer, I'd have had a collapse or a breakdown or a meltdown in some other way, you know. Other signs for me, and I think this is probably different for everyone, but I had some psoriasis on my skin, unexplained patches of dry skin randomly over my body that would come and go. Now I know that that's kind of more stress related, or it's the sign that I'm not drinking enough water, I'm not putting enough goodness into my body. My skin as well, I had really had quite spotty skin. My skin was quite grey. I was tired all the time, really lethargic. And I think I was running on adrenaline because I loved my work and loved what I did. I was always on the go, but I wasn't getting enough sleep. So at night I was having teeth grinding. And I did also have bouts of insomnia. I remember there were about 3 nights in a row where I just didn't sleep, zero sleep, and I'd never experienced it. But it was horrendous. It drove me mad, actually, just those 3 nights not getting any sleep. And I think again, it's just all of these very small signs that we might not even pay attention. just general stress, general low immunity. Yeah, our basic functions aren't functioning so well anymore. And putting on weight as well, whether that was because I was overeating or I was eating sugar because I wasn't able to eat a really great diet. I didn't give myself enough time, or whether it was just the stress and I was holding on.
Yeah. Yeah, so important, because I know virtually everybody will resonate with some of those symptoms at some
And I think
time.
especially for those of us who are in female bodies, we don't prioritize our health, and all of these things can be put down to hormone changes or cycle
Mm,
changes or something else. But we really do need to pay attention to our bodies really closely, because no one else is going to. So we need to
yeah.
pay attention.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's incredible just to hear you say that whole story. So I'm interested in the next bit then. So how did you go from that to really what you do now? Like, what was the big why behind it all?
I'd been working with Tantra for about 5 or 6 years before cancer hit. But it was very much just for me and myself. It was very much a way of life. Okay, how do I connect with my own body? Because I'd experienced shutdown as well. I call it sexual shutdown in my 20s, which was where I was unable to connect sexually with myself or with others. And I didn't want to live that in my life. And I went to a number of different therapists and counselors, and no one was really able to kind of hit the nail on the head as to what was going on for me. And I wasn't ever given practical steps. And so through that work and through that world, I've heard about the sexological bodywork training, and a lot of my friends had done the training, but I didn't ever want to offer the work. It was always for myself. But no, 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 this is for me. I don't want to give. Actually, I don't want to. I don't want to do this as my work. I was a burlesque dancer. I was enjoying it, and I was really loving the community that I was building there. But one morning, I just woke up and I knew I was going to do the training out of nowhere. And I contacted the teacher, and I knew the teacher, and they only ran one course a year. And it started, and I didn't know this at the time. And he said, it starts in 3 weeks. And I was like, okay, right. Well, I am doing this training. And it was a full time 9-month training around all sorts, around anatomy, sexuality, gender studies, nervous system, co-regulation, working with trauma, and prioritizing pleasure ultimately, and how pleasure can be medicine to us, or a resource to us. So many people don't prioritize it and leave pleasure till we've done everything else on the to-do list, and then we wonder why we have less access to pleasure in our body, or why everything else gets in the way in our relationship. But yet somehow when it's time to sit down with our partner, when we finally have time to have a sex life, something isn't quite there for us anymore. So, and I know in myself, having experienced my own sexual shutdown, how valuable it is for me and my body, and for my sexual connections with my partner, how important that is for me to keep that flourishing.
Yes.
And I really like working very practically with it, like really very practical skills and information, instead of just the talk and the therapy and the looking at your childhood stuff, which is also helpful. But I'm more about, okay, let's move forward. What can we do from now on that could make
Hmm.
changes?
Yeah. What do you mean by practical? If you just explain that.
So some of the things I've been teaching recently are, so what you mentioned, my book club, and that sounds like a very sweet group for women, and it is a very sweet group for women, but it's also an absolute powerhouse for women to come and keep the discussion of pleasure on the agenda. And through that, we learn practical self-regulation skills. So we work on breath and tracking sensation in the body. And this helps us bring us into our own body and into the present. And that's helpful in all areas of life, but also particularly in sex and sexuality, whether that's our own pleasure or pleasure with a partner. So that, because it starts with the self, and if we can't actually feel what's going on in our body outside of the sexual charge, then it's the skill that we're not honing, and
Yeah.
then we expect to rely on it when we are in sexual intimacy.
Yeah, and I must admit, I've noticed when I'm on the calls that it's so easy to tune into pain, and that
Mm,
when you first tell us, and we're doing the breathing and we're reconnecting with our body, the first thing that will come up is always pain, and then you say, "Where's the pleasure?" And it's like, oh. I don't know. Where is the pleasure? And it
yeah.
takes some searching, and it really it almost needs fine tuning, as if like we're so far from being connected with our own pleasure, and I don't know for what reasons. Maybe there's guilt or judgment that we shouldn't be, but we forget it. And then some of those little exercises you've done with us where we're just touching maybe a hand or something like that, and it's so amazing how that can feel when we really tune into it.
Yeah, as children, pleasure is a priority, but we're taught at a very young age, don't do that, don't enjoy yourself too much, don't laugh too loud. I mean, definitely don't touch yourself, and things like that. So we very quickly shut down that part of us that prioritizes pleasure. And so when I get you to tune into your body, it's quite often the aches and pains and the tensions, they're the loudest sensations that we hear in the body because
Mm.
we've spent so many years shoving any nice sensations to the back. Like, I haven't got time to feel the nice stuff. I'm too busy. I feel that on a Sunday morning when I've got space for it. I'm too busy right now. And it takes time to, yeah, fine tuning like a radio, basically, like a radio dial, dialing in to where in my body feels pleasure, even if we're in pain or discomfort or we're tired or burnt out or we've got a headache, somewhere in our body will feel neutral at least, if not pleasure. And especially when I work with people who have got debilitating pain or lifelong conditions that get in the way of their pleasure, like, okay, where in the body does feel good, right? Instead of focusing on the pleasure or the disability. It's like where in the body does feel neutral, where in the body does feel pleasure.
I recorded a mindset meditation, one that you can do overnight. Very powerful in terms of helping you create the confidence, the self-belief, and deal with any money mindset issues. I use these kind of overnight meditations all the time. I found them incredibly powerful. So I've created a very special one and I'm giving it for free to all of my podcast listeners. You can download it on the show notes.
And the other thing that's just come into me while you're saying that, the other thing that's very prominent in your work is the use of sound. And I think so often we're not even able to express our own sounds, even just using our own voice. And some of the things that you've done is teaching us to breathe loudly, to make space in the world, to not hold back, to not play small, to actually use our voice to say what we want, what we like, who we are. And I think that message is not just a message about sex. That's like literally every single part of our lives, and very often we're just playing it small, and that's definitely a big part of my journey, is that I was holding my voice back and not able to use it. And I love it now, just taking a deep breath and making so much noise with it and just not caring who hears
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take up some space. Let's be loud. Let's not be too scared about being heard. And there's a number of different. I could talk a lot about noisy breath and making noise, but there's a lot in it. Whether it's we're stimulating the vagus nerve so that we can drop into our parasympathetic or kind of regulate more our nervous system, or whether it's now just having access to our voice so we can express our desires and our boundaries and give consent or to say no. And again, it's as you've said, it's not just in the sexual arena, it's everywhere we need to have access to our voice in life. And again, maybe those of us who've been conditioned as women have absolutely grown up in a society where we haven't been given that permission or the role modeling of really going for what we want. That's seen as quite a masculine thing. And I'm sure there are also men that struggle with that also. But, I'm looking at a lot of evidence at the moment around jobs and gender bias, and how women are less likely to go for promotions, or less likely to feel they have the tools to negotiate, kind of promotions and pay increase. And that's really valuable, actually, to have our voice and to not feel quietened or shamed or shut down to our voice.
So true, so true. And you just touched a little bit on regulation there. Do you want to talk into just regulation and what that means to you?
Okay, so for me, in a bit of a nutshell, is I think we all walk around in a slightly fight or flight state. There's the never-ending to-do list. We're all on go, 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 go. Whatever it is, work, life, kids, bosses, the general drama of the world that's going on. It's keeping us in this slightly activated state. And what happens at that place is that we can be heading into overwhelm, but we tolerate it, and then we get a bit more stressed, and we tolerate that, and we get a bit more stressed, and we tolerate that. And before we know it, we're up to our eyeballs in stress, and we've normalized that. And that isn't good for our bodies. In that place, that is where our immune system shuts down. That's where we don't have access to our reproductive system shuts down. Like parts of the body literally just shut off because they're not needed in that adrenalized state. And for me, it's all about how can we bring ourselves back to somewhere which is a bit more neutral, and we can also have access to the parasympathetic rest and digest and relax. And we also don't actually want to go too far into that, because we don't want to kind of freeze or clamp down or fawn or fall asleep. So we need to be able to flow in between the nervous system and have tools that can help us when we are activated in one or the other. So I do a lot of shaking in my work, and I do a lot of breathing. And for me, breathing is what kind of gets us into the more parasympathetic relaxed state, and shaking is more up leveling a little bit, kind of waking us up more. And it's really valuable because, especially if we're thinking about pleasure, pleasure needs to come from a place of safety, relaxation, and comfort. It's an inside job. It doesn't matter actually what my partner's doing. I'm in an activated state, or I'm stressed out, then I'm just not going to feel, or I'm going to feel too much and I'm going to become a premature ejaculator, for example. That's one thing that men come to me with, and that's often an overactivated nervous system. Or for those of us who feel that we're non-orgasmic, for example, that is more of a numbed out state. So whether we feel like we're numbed out, or whether we feel like we're in pain, or whether we peak sooner than we would like in sex, all of these things for me are nervous system based. And there could be a number of different reasons, and there may be historical trauma as well, which is part of it. But ultimately, it's not about the looking back so much. It's more about, okay, what can we put into place now to work forward with these experiences? Now that we know what's happening and potentially why it's happening, we won't always know why. What are the steps? What are the tools? How can I move through this?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And as we know, it's again another example of how we need the whole person just to be looked at as a whole, rather than just these individual chunks and being given medications and just trying to attack it from one angle, because in reality everything comes down to the core of who you are and how you regulate yourself, which is incredible. The shaking is so much fun. I think the dancing and the shaking has just been a great addition to my life, just as a regular little thing. In fact, I had a personal little trauma myself a week ago, and I decided that I was going to dance my way through this trauma, and oh my goodness, it's just been so much easier, so much faster to move through the energy and the emotions of that with shaking every day, breathing, dancing. It's so powerful, and it just means that instead of me being stuck in this big emotion that could have lasted half a year or something, it's just flown by in a week, which is incredible.
those kind of emotions and those kind of challenges get stuck in the body. They get stuck in the body, and they can create, dis-ease. They can create stuckness and pain. The body holds on to these as trauma. So well done for finding your way through. Instead of freezing or freaking out, you upregulated, shook it out, moved it through. Well done. Using the tools and self-care. And so many of us don't do this because we think that we have to look after everyone else, and we don't have time to shake or dance because we don't see the point in it. Maybe it seems like it's a frivolous thing, but actually it's really something which is nourishing for us, and we need to nourish ourselves so that we can give and be full in the world.
Yes, so powerful and life-changing. And actually, I think we are better practitioners, better carers, better parents, better friends, as a result of it, because we're not holding on to that emotion.
Yeah, and this is reflected with my lifestyle as well. I know I am a better practitioner for my clients because I yoga most days, and I gym most days, and I take time to look at the sea most days. And I know when I first went self-employed, it was difficult to get hold of for me, that thought process that, the more I nourish myself, the more I can show up with my clients. I was trying to cram every hour was with my clients, and if I wasn't with clients, I felt really guilty, and I was cramming in admin. And now it's actually, no, I really need to create a structure which cares for me. Because, if I'm overgiving to clients at a massive capacity, at a massive rate, and then I hit burnout, I can't give to my clients anymore. So I need to have quite a system a week to make sure that I'm fitting in clients where I can, where works for me, where works for them as well also, but saving myself enough headspace, because especially when we're practitioners that work with clients who are in need, it's not just the hours that you're with them, it takes up a lot of headspace that we need to schedule in as well. We need that buffer time.
Absolutely. And just while we're talking on lifestyle, I know we was having a giggle just before the podcast at how wonderful life really is, because I know you say you love your lifestyle. I love my lifestyle. There's nothing better than just waking up every day and looking at the weather and making the choice about what we do. So I'd love to hear, what is a day in your life? What does that look like?
Oh, well, this morning, it usually starts with the gym or yoga. Today, actually, it didn't start until midday. I had the gym at midday today. And I've got some really gorgeous, healthy food that I have for breakfast. So I always prioritize that. And I purposefully didn't do any admin this morning because I've had a few full days of screen time. So I thought, okay, you've got a free morning, like not going to have gym till midday. And then I knew I have this session, and then later on I will either go back to the gym and have another gym class or yoga. So yeah, double gym day, which means I might not be able to walk tomorrow, which is less fair if I'm honest. I feel I have the capacity for it today. But I know prioritizing my health and my body is massive for me, because I'm a body worker, it's also quite physical. I'm often on the floor crawling around with my clients, or kind of touching bodies or manipulating bodies a little bit. So I need to be really healthy to look after myself, to make sure I can sit on the floor for a long amount of time. So, and sometimes my sessions are 3 or more hours. So yeah, that's what my days usually look like. Yoga, gym, when it's sunny, I take a book to the beach because that's only 3 minutes from my front door. So that was beautiful. I cycle quite a lot when I can, unless it's raining, and I try not to go too many places. And I can just really figure out what's good for me. And I'm now very good at looking at my diary and blocking out with a highlighter so that I can see really clearly how much work am I doing this week. And then so I know when to go, oh, actually, that's enough. Yeah, I could squeeze it in another session or two here or there, but actually, that's enough for now. I can see them on Monday.
Yeah. How many hours do you think you work a week, roughly?
Do you know what? It really varies, because sometimes when I run couples events, for example, which I've been doing at weekends, that's a 9-hour day, but that's 9 hours of contact time. That doesn't include the hours prep set up, the hours,
Mm.
get dismantling everything, and then all the prep for that. And then I run 2, sometimes 3 evening sessions a week for my
Mm-hmm.
online groups. And sometimes I can do 3 clients a day, but I can't do 3 clients a day every day. So in my busy times, I've had 3 3-hour clients back to back. That's not good for me anymore, so I've stopped doing that. But now it's maybe 4 or 5 one-to-one clients a week with some evenings, with my evening groups, and 1 event or 2 events at the weekend a month.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, we'll talk about business strategy in a minute, because I can tell you're a very good businesswoman who has a lot of things sussed out, which I'll talk about in a minute. But in terms of the amount of hours that I work, I notice that it ranges from 10 hours a week to around about 25. When I hit 25 hours a week, I can only sustain it for a short period of time. And that's normally over the winter. And
Is
at
that
that
client
stage,
contact time 25 hours?
well, no, that would be, so I sit at a screen a lot, you see, so that
Yeah.
could be me doing sales and marketing, like
Yeah.
not it's definitely not client contact, no. That's much less, actually.
That's the
the
bit
way
when because I do group mentoring actually, and what I hear people factor in is that they only factor in client time. And I'm like, okay, so you've had 5 clients, an hour each this week. That's more than 5 hours. And it's trying to get them to say, actually, how much time does it take to set up and to unwind from it? Because
Yeah.
the idea is, when are you going to be energetically ready or energetically clean for your next client? Like, you've got to factor in that buffer time as well. But no, you've already done that, Becca. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it totally works. And I'm always changing business structure as well. So at the minute we're reducing the amount of sales calls I do and the client contact that I do. I'm hiring experts to help on my programs so that I don't have to turn up so often, just because I know when it comes to the sun being out, I don't want to work. It's just as simple as that. Like, I just want to be outside, and it's not easy being on a screen outside, so that means I can't work.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Winter is where I try and max out my time.
Yeah.
And ready for, and spring there's usually a little flurry, but then summer I like to be out of the house. And I like to encourage everyone else to get off screens as well.
Yeah, exactly. So one thing I noticed, obviously I came in as a client to you, and so searched you out. I went on your website. I saw there was a low ticket offer, so a book club, and it was a relatively safe way of me starting to work with somebody like you, because I imagine it's quite a big step for most people to want to connect with somebody like you, because your title's slightly intimidating to most people, I would think. And the book club, it just felt like a really safe place. It's not expensive, so it felt like something that I could just afford just to try. And of course, then I was in your world. Now, I noticed when I was in your world, your book club participants were selling for you, which I noticed was very smart. And I was like, how's she got this to happen? And you've only done that by being absolutely wonderful and amazing, that they all are just raving about your one-to-one sessions or your events and things like that. But
I do feel I should be slipping them, money.
I know. I was like, this woman is smart. This is very clever. So she's got me in. I'm now feeling safe. And now I'd feel silly if I didn't upgrade, because everybody else is. And I just noticed I love being sold to. It's one of my favorite things, as somebody who works in sales, is to actually look at which sales funnels work for you and what makes you buy. And it was the safety of it and the client testimonials that people were just bubbling after they'd been working with you one-to-one or in these group, the weekends away. They're literally bubbling. You can feel it. They want to talk about it. They don't want to stop talking about it, how they feel. And so your business funnel is incredibly smart. So I'd love to know, did you plan that, or did that just happen naturally?
I didn't plan it at all, but oh God, I'd have been a genius if I had have. I'm really good at listening to what my clients need as opposed to offering something I think they need. And what I noticed was originally I had a lot of men working with me, whether that's because they're more comfortable or more confident talking around sexuality, or maybe they don't have another outlet to talk about it, so they go and see a professional. Or maybe it's because they have more money because my one-to-one sessions, aren't cheap for everyone. So I was working with a lot of men, and what was happening were women were emailing me saying, "I can't afford your body work, but have you got a book recommendation?" And they come to me having come out of abusive relationships, or having, not being able to orgasm, or experiencing trauma, or losing their sexy access to sexiness because of childbirth and child rearing. And what I heard over and over and over again was women asking for book recommendations. And I'd always reply with, "It's not about reading. This isn't the work that you can read about. You've just got to kind of embody it." But then eventually I just heard the cry and went, "Okay, that's it. I've got this massive sex library around anatomy and sexuality and sacred sexuality." And I was like, and I just thought to myself, when am I going to ever read these books actually? And I recognised I'm going to start a book club, and the practice is going to be reading a book, but also we get group discussions and we get embodiment. And I wanted it to be really easy for people, because I wouldn't have ever joined a book club, if I'm honest. And suddenly I'm running one and people are loving it. So I wanted to make sure it was 15 pages a week max. You could drop in and out, but there was always the safety of knowing that when you came back, it was the same faces that you'd see. We'd cover one book in 10 to 15 weeks, depending on the length of the book. And I offered optional homework as well. And some people attend, and they attend every single week, and they read every single page, and they do all of the homework. I think that's quite rare, actually, that anyone attends that way. Or the other end of the spectrum is they attend maybe 50% of the time and they barely scrape through the book. Some people don't even buy the book, and that's okay, because it's really what I don't want it to be is another rod for women to beat themselves up with, for another thing on the to-do list. It's meant to be a place of resource, a place which is helpful. Some of the women have been with me almost from the start, which is now 3 years or more. Some of the women have taken a few book clubs out and keep popping back. And some are diehards that I can't shake off. And that's really lovely. And we're always really welcoming to new women. And it is a really safe way, because it's a book club. I've always thought about renaming it to kind of better reflect the power of it, really. But actually, I think a book club's perfect, because then it is, like you say, it's safe. It's a safe way to open up to sexuality. And especially because it's on Zoom as well. So there's a bit of a distance with that as well. So even though it sounds like quite cute and light, I think the work goes really quite deep, because it is that titrated every Wednesday, turning up, breathing a little bit, connecting with other women, hearing everyone else's experiences, learning from others in the group. It lifts that shame and that conditioning we have, that we shouldn't have this kind of knowledge, basically, because the sex education out there is not prioritized to female pleasure or anyone's pleasure, actually. So it gives us a language, and it gives us, someone described it as a backbone. Like, I've got this backbone of support that I can get on with my life, knowing that on Wednesday I've got book club, And someone else said it's a way of keeping pleasure on the agenda every week.
Yeah. It's so powerful. And the other thing I noticed is there's people of all ages as well. So
it's a complete range.
Yeah, just
of ages, of lifestyles, of
incredible.
experiences. Some people are married, some people are divorced, some people have children, some people are single, some are childless from choice. It's this whole, it's like a microcosm. Like I think it's amazing, actually, what's happened. And I don't think I can actually take any credit for it. I just thought, wouldn't it be nice to read some books together on sexuality? And I'll set a little bit of homework that people might not do. And I'm just always blessed at the brilliant women that are called in to the book club. It's got a life of its own.
You have men as well, don't you? Are you going to do that one again? The one with the mixed?
The mixed gender book club. I don't do it so often. I usually do it once a year. So
Okay.
the mixed one's brilliant, and it's about 50-50 men. Men and women. I didn't plan that, but that's how it was. So it's open to all genders, and it's really powerful. Again, because I think uh, a lot of the women expressed that there's a bit of concern around, can we have these kind of deep conversations with men in the room, and that people have really grown through that. And I think the men are really amazed to hear women talk so openly around stuff that's gone on in their sexuality. Because again, maybe for women it's easier to get. I mean, even if we're just at kind of gossip level around sex, we have a bit more access to the conversation than I think men do.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So,
true.
so men have found it really incredibly, I think, a real honour to be privy to
Yeah.
hear what the women have been saying, and vice versa. I think it's incredibly healing for all of the genders to see and to be heard by each other.
Yeah, perfect. Well, there might be somebody listening to this today that kind of resonates with your message, and they're just sat at home kind of thinking, oh, but I don't fully know what it is that she does or who she works with. So do you just want to like explain what a perfect ideal client for you is and what you might actually do with them?
Oh, brilliant. My ideal client, who would that be? I think my ideal client is probably someone who has got a really curiosity around how they can have more pleasure in their life. And that might be, I mean, some people come to me and say, my sex life is fine, but I want to know more. And other people come to me and go, I haven't had sex for years, or I'm in a sexless marriage, or I can't orgasm at all. And I think as long as you have an open mind and you have curiosity around it, then working with me is a brilliant option. And it's often people come to me last because they've tried everything else. Maybe they've done a bit of yoga, they've gone to doctors, they've tried medication, they've tried, I don't know, different dating apps or different kinky things in the bedroom, whatever. All of those things are lovely and welcome. But then they come to me because they're like, actually, there's something here that I want to dig a little bit deeper about. So yeah, someone who wants to prioritize their pleasure and maybe finds that really difficult to do, or is even turned off by the word pleasure. I know when I
Yeah.
first started this work, for me, the word pleasure kind of made me feel a bit sick, actually. But oh,
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It wasn't the top of my agenda. I didn't really fully understand it. But now I do. And now it's in my calendar every day just to remind me.
yeah. And if you think you don't have time for it, I promise you can find time. And if you make time for pleasure, you suddenly have a lot more time for everything else in your
Yeah,
life. You have a
that's
lot
so
more
true.
generosity.
That's so true. And you're based down south in the UK. It's Brighton, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you work online with a lot of your clients.
I work in person in Brighton and London, and I do also run around the country a little bit doing different events and festivals, but most people access me online, whether that's one-to-one or whether that's my group
Yeah.
work that I do. So I do a bunch of one-off workshops as well around pleasure or self-touch techniques, and things like that. But I also do couples one-to-ones online, and I also do the groups, which can be mixed or all female or couples groups.
Yeah. And that's a lovely example of a hybrid business, really, where you get the fulfillment of seeing people face to face. And in your industry, you do need to be able to touch. So it's quite important not to be fully online. But I was so impressed by how much you can actually do online as well. And of course, when you use the online space, you open to an international audience, which is incredible, and your time is suddenly much greater because you've only got an hour, you haven't got all that extra traveling time and all the other things that come with meeting people face to face. So I like how you've got that balance of how people can work with you.
Yeah, it feels really good. And so I've been doing this work in its current format for the last, I'm going to say 6 years, I believe. And that feels really, it's got to a great place over the last 2 or 3 years. It's like, yes, I've hit it now. This is it. And I'm doing
Perfect.
less, actually. It probably looks like I'm doing less, or it feels like in my body that I'm doing, but it's absolutely really working for me and for others. So that's the great place to be, isn't it?
Yes, completely. And if people did want to get in touch with you, what should they do?
I've got a brilliant website, but also if you just Google my name, jemayres.co.uk, I've popped up on all sorts of people's podcasts and TV programs and things. So my name is JEMAYRES.co.uk.
Perfect. And we will put that in the show notes as well.
Thank you. There's also a brilliant free gift page on my website. So if you do want to do some of the practices around breath or around tuning into the body that we've spoken about, there's a great video called Sensation Tracking. There's a great audio called The Foundation. So there's lots of free ways that you can access my work as well.
Wonderful. And is there anything you want to say at the end of this? Anything we've missed?
I just want to remind everyone that pleasure is really vital for us. And actually, if we're in pleasure in our lives, even in the rain, even in the challenges of life, we're going to be far more loving people to our children, to our partners, to our colleagues, to the world. We have more generosity, we have more heart, we have more to give. So just remember, look after yourself, prioritise yourself, and there will be more space will occur for everything.
That's beautiful. And I'd like to add to that when you do that, you'll become magnetic as well. That helps abundance in so many different ways.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Perfect. Well, thank you for being such a wonderful podcast guest.
Thank you for having me, Becky. It's been lovely.
If you are an OT with 3 to 10 hours per week spare, then the OT Yourself to Freedom membership is best for you. It will teach you how to create a business, an online freedom style business, but in an affordable way. And this is best for those of you who haven't got the time to really go for it. If you have the time to go for it and you want to achieve bigger results in a short space of time, what you're looking for is the OT Freedom Collective. This is for OTs who've got 10 hours a week or more and you're just really keen to get big results. That's where you're going to be closely supported by our team for a 6-month period. It will be intensive. You'll learn everything you need to create this freedom style business. And the biggest word that people say about it is that it's life-changing.